On a freezing morning, Jaden Brooks, a poor black nursing student, was rushing to the most important exam of his life. Suddenly, he saw a wealthy woman collapsed on the sidewalk, blood running down her pale face. Without a moment of hesitation, Jaden stopped, knelt beside her, and kept her alive until the ambulance arrived. Fully aware he had missed the last bus and might fail the exam that could determine his entire future. But what Jaden never expected was that the true identity of the woman he saved would soon turn his whole life upside down forever. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The bus was 3 blocks away. Jaden Brooks checked his phone for the 4th time in 2 minutes. 8:28 a.m., 32 minutes until the nursing 401 final exam started. 32 minutes to get across town, find parking sprint to Harrison Hall, and slide into that seat before Professor Morrison locked the door. He couldn't be late. Not today. The November wind cut through his old nursing scrubs, the same ones he'd worn through every clinical rotation washed so many times. The blue had faded to something closer to gray. He pulled his backpack tighter against his shoulder and walked faster, his breath forming clouds in the cold Philadelphia air. "You got this, baby." His mama's voice always there in the back of his mind. "My son, the nurse." Jaden turned onto Market Street, weaving between the morning crowd. Businessmen in expensive coats, college students with their AirPods in, everyone moving fast heads down, going somewhere important. Just like him. He was halfway down the block when he saw her, a woman crumpled against the brick wall outside the pharmacy. 50, maybe older, white. Expensive camel-colored coat, the kind that probably cost more than Jaden's entire semester of textbooks. Her designer purse had spilled across the sidewalk wallet keys, a shattered iPhone with the screen spiderwebbed into 1,000 pieces, and blood, dark red pooling from somewhere beneath her perfectly styled blonde hair. Jaden's feet stopped moving before his brain caught up. People flowed around her like water around a rock. A businessman in a 3-piece suit glanced down his face, twitching with something concerned disgust, before he kept walking. 2 college girls slowed, one pulling out her phone, but her friend grabbed her arm and pulled her along. "We're gonna be late for class." Nobody stopped. Jaden looked at his phone. 8:29 a.m., 31 minutes. The woman's hand twitched. Her fingers scraped against the concrete, reaching for nothing. "Keep walking," a voice in his head said. "You didn't see this. You've got 31 minutes. If you miss this exam, you're done." 4 years gone. Mama's dream gone. He looked up the street. The bus was visible now, 2 blocks away, coming closer. The woman's hand went still. Jaden's backpack hit the sidewalk before he made the conscious decision to move. He dropped to his knees beside her, his scrubs soaking up the cold from the concrete. Ma'am, can you hear me?" His hands were already moving, muscle memory from 1,000 hours of clinical training taking over. He pressed 2 fingers against her neck, searching for a pulse. There. Weak. Thready. Too fast. He tilted her head back, gently checking her airway. Clear. Breathing, but shallow. His eyes scanned her body, clinical and quick. No obvious injuries except the head wound. He looked at her pupils. Left eye normal. Right eye dilated, blown wide. Shit. "Somebody call 911 inches. Jaden shouted, not looking up. His hands were already moving to her coat, checking for a medical alert bracelet. Anything that could tell him what he was dealing with. The crowd kept moving. A few people slowed phones out filming. Nobody called. "Call 911 inches. Jaden's voice cracked. "Now." An older man finally stopped phone, already at his ear. "Yes, Market Street outside the Walgreens. Woman unconscious, head injury." Jaden barely heard him. He was counting seconds in his head, watching the woman's chest rise and fall. Unequal pupils, head trauma. The blood wasn't clotting right. It was too thin, spreading too fast across the sidewalk. Intracranial hemorrhage, maybe subdural hematoma. She's in shock. The bus hissed to a stop at the corner. Jaden saw it from the corner of his eye. Saw the doors fold open. Saw people climbing on. The driver looked down the street, looked at Jaden kneeling on the ground, looked at the blood. The bus waited. 15 seconds. 20. 30. Jaden pulled off his jacket, the same thin jacket he'd been wearing since sophomore year, the one with the broken zipper, and wadded it up, pressing it gently but firmly against the woman's head wound. His other hand went to her wrist, monitoring her pulse. Still weak. Getting weaker. 5 minutes. That's what they taught him in emergency medicine. 5 minutes between life and death for a head injury this severe. 5 minutes until brain damage became irreversible. 5 minutes until EMS arrived, if they arrived. The bus driver honked once, a short, sharp sound. Jaden didn't look up. He kept pressure on the wound, kept his fingers on her pulse, kept counting. The woman's breathing was getting shallower. Her lips were turning blue at the edges. "Come on," Jaden whispered. "Come on, stay with me. You're gonna be okay. Just stay with me." The bus doors folded shut, the engine rumbled, and then it was gone, moving down Market Street, carrying away his last chance to make it to campus on time. 8:32 a.m. Jaden's hands didn't shake. He repositioned his jacket, maintaining pressure, and used his free hand to elevate her legs slightly, trying to maintain blood flow to her brain. Textbook treatment for shock. He'd memorized this chapter 2 years ago, practiced it on dummies in the skills lab 100 times. He'd never thought he'd be doing it on a sidewalk while his entire future drove away on a SEPTA bus. "How far away are they?" Jaden called to the man on the phone. 4 minutes, the man said. He was still standing there at least. A small crowd had gathered now, a loose circle of people watching with their phones out. Jaden wondered absently if any of them were filming. Probably. Everything got filmed these days. "Ma'am, I'm Jaden. I'm a nursing student. Help is coming. Okay, you're going to be fine." His voice was steady, even though his heart was hammering against his ribs. "What's your name? Can you tell me your name?" Nothing. Her eyes didn't open. Jaden checked her pulse again. Weaker still. Damn it. He looked at the man with the phone. "Tell them to hurry. Tell them possible traumatic brain injury patient is deteriorating. Pulse is weak and rapid unequal pupils." The man repeated it, stumbling over the medical terms. 8:34 a.m. Jaden thought about Professor Morrison's voice from the syllabus review first day of class. This final exam begins at exactly 9:00 a.m. The doors close at 9:00 a.m. If you are not in your seat when I begin distributing the exam, you will receive a 0. No exceptions, no makeups, no excuses. Morrison had looked right at Jaden when he said it. Or maybe that was just Jaden's imagination. The woman's hand moved. Her fingers brushed against Jaden's wrist, barely there like a ghost. "I'm here," Jaden said softly. "You're not alone." "I'm not going anywhere." 8:36 a.m. Sirens finally, growing louder. The ambulance came around the corner, fast lights flashing, and pulled up onto the sidewalk. 2 paramedics jumped out, a woman mid-30s moving with practiced efficiency and a younger guy hauling equipment. "What have we got?" The woman was already kneeling beside Jaden, gloved hands reaching for the patient. Jaden didn't move his hands from the wound. Found her collapsed approximately 5 minutes ago. Unresponsive, weak and rapid pulse, shallow respirations. Head trauma with active bleeding. I've been maintaining pressure. Pupil's unequal right is blown. I'm thinking intracranial hemorrhage, possible subdural hematoma. She's in shock. The paramedic looked at him. Really looked at him for the first time. Took in the scrubs, the blood on his hands, the calmness in his voice. "You medical nursing student, senior year. Good work." She was already taking over her partner, setting up equipment. "We've got her now. You can step back." Jaden moved aside, his legs stiff from kneeling. He stood up slowly, his jacket now soaked with blood, still pressed against the woman's head as the paramedic gently took over. He backed away, giving them room to work, and watched as they moved with choreographed precision. Cervical collar, backboard, IV line. The lead paramedic looked up at her partner. "Let's move. We need to get her to Jefferson now." As they loaded the woman onto the stretcher, the lead paramedic, her name tag said Rodriguez, looked at Jaden. "What's your name?" "Jaden Brooks." "Jaden, you saved her life." Rodriguez's eyes were serious. "I mean that. Another 5, maybe 10 minutes, we'd be calling the medical examiner instead of rushing her to surgery." She paused, strapping the woman onto the stretcher. "Seriously, 12 more minutes and she'd be gone." The words hit Jaden like a physical thing. Rodriguez and her partner lifted the stretcher, moving fast toward the ambulance. The doors slammed shut. The sirens wailed back to life. And then they were gone, leaving Jaden standing on the sidewalk with blood drying on his hands and his ruined jacket on the ground beside him. The crowd dispersed quickly, everyone going back to their important mornings. Jaden looked at his phone. 8:43 a.m. 17 minutes until the exam started. He was on Market Street. Campus was 15 minutes away by bus, about 25 minutes if he walked. He picked up his jacket, the fabric stiff and wet with someone else's blood. Picked up his backpack. His hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up with him. Mama's voice. "You're gonna be a nurse, baby. You're gonna help people." Jaden looked down at his hands, brown skin stained dark red, and thought about the woman's fingers brushing against his wrist, about her blown pupil and weak pulse, about the way everyone else had just kept walking, about Rodriguez's words, 12 more minutes and she'd be gone. He thought about Professor Morrison's policy, about the zero he was about to receive, about 4 years of work about to disappear. Jaden started walking toward campus anyway. Maybe Morrison would understand. Maybe there'd be an exception just this once. Maybe doing the right thing wouldn't cost him everything. Maybe Dot. He walked faster, blood drying between his fingers, and tried very hard to believe it. He ran the whole way and reached Harrison Hall at 8:58. 2 minutes. He had 2 minutes. His lungs burned from sprinting the last 4 blocks. Sweat mixed with dried blood on his hands, creating dark streaks across his palms. His scrubs were stained, wrinkled, spotted with someone else's trauma. He looked like he'd walked out of an ER. The hallway outside room 402 was empty. Through the small window in the door, Jaden could see his classmates already seated, pencils out, notebooks closed. Professor Patrick Morrison stood at the front in his perfectly tailored navy suit, the one he wore for important occasions. Jaden's hand was on the door handle when Morrison's voice cut through. "Close your laptops, put away your phones. You have exactly 2 hours." 8:59 a.m. Jaden pushed the door open. Every head turned, 32 students staring. Morrison's hand froze halfway through distributing exam packets. His eyes traveled from Jaden's face down to his stained scrubs, to the blood crusted under his fingernails, and back up again. "Mr. Brooks." Morrison's voice was flat, controlled. "You're late." "Professor Morrison, Jaden's voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. "I'm sorry. There was an emergency. A woman collapsed on Market Street. She was bleeding from a head injury, and nobody was helping her, so I—" The exam began at 9 a.m. Morrison set down the papers with deliberate precision. "It is now 9:01. "I know, but I had to stop. She had a blown pupil, and she was going into shock. And if I hadn't—" Morrison held up one hand, silencing him. "Mr. Brooks, the syllabus was very clear about the exam policy. I stated it on the first day of class. I repeated it before midterms, and I sent an email reminder yesterday. The doors close at 9 a.m. No exceptions. But Professor, I was giving CPR to—" "That was your choice." Morrison's voice didn't rise. "Didn't need to. You chose to stop. You chose to miss the beginning of this exam. Choices have consequences, Mr. Brooks." The room was silent, except for the fluorescent lights humming overhead. Jaden could hear his own heartbeat. "Professor Morrison, please. I can start now. I can finish in the time remaining. I know the material I've studied." The exam began at 9 a.m. Morrison returned to his desk, picked up his gradebook, and made a notation with his expensive fountain pen. "The policy is the policy. It exists for a reason. If I make an exception for you, I'd have to make exceptions for everyone. The integrity of the examination process would be compromised." He looked up. "You will receive a 0 for this exam. That will be reflected in your final grade." 0. Jaden's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His mind calculated automatically. The final was worth 40% of the grade. He'd had a 91% average. A 0 would drop him to a 54%. An F. An F meant his GPA would fall below 3.0. Below 3.0 meant his presidential scholarship was revoked. The scholarship was $32,000 a year. Without it, he owed $32,000 for this semester. Money he didn't have. Money that didn't exist anywhere in his family tree. "Professor, there has to be something." Desperation crept into Jaden's voice. "I saved her life." The paramedics said if I'd waited another 12 minutes, she would have died. I couldn't just leave her there. Morrison's expression didn't change. "I'm sure it was very dramatic, Mr. Brooks, but the rules apply equally to everyone. That's what makes them fair." "Fair?" The word came out sharp. "How is this fair? I was saving someone's life." "Lower your voice, please." Morrison's tone hardened. "You're disrupting the other students' exam time." Jaden looked around the room. Marcus wouldn't meet his eyes. Sarah was writing furiously, head down. James Peterson stared at his exam paper like it contained the secrets of the universe. Nobody was going to say anything. "Please." The word came out small. "Professor Morrison, please, let me take the exam. I'll accept points off for being late, whatever you think is fair. But please don't give me a 0. This is my entire future." Morrison closed his gradebook with a soft thump. "Mr. Brooks, I understand you're upset, but you made a choice on that sidewalk. You chose to stop and help that woman instead of getting to your exam on time. That was your decision. Now you have to live with the consequences." He gestured toward the door. "Please leave so the other students can concentrate." Jaden didn't move, couldn't move. "You're telling me I should have let her die. That's what you're saying. You're saying I should have stepped over a dying woman to protect my grade. I'm saying you should have made sure you arrived on time for your scheduled examination." Morrison's patience was wearing thin. "What you did with your morning before 9 a.m. was your business. What happens in this classroom during scheduled exam time is mine." He walked to the door and opened it. "Please go, Mr. Brooks. You're wasting time that these students need." Jaden looked at the exam papers on Morrison's desk. He could see the first question. Describe the pathophysiology of diabetic ketoacidosis and outline the priority nursing interventions. He knew that answer. He knew all the answers. He'd spent 4 years learning these answers, spent nights in the library, while his classmates were at parties, spent money he didn't have, on textbooks, spent every spare minute trying to become the nurse his mother had believed he could be. And now, it was over. "Mr. Brooks," Morrison's voice was firm. "I won't ask again." Jaden's hands clenched into fists. The dried blood on his palms cracked. He wanted to scream, wanted to flip Morrison's desk, wanted to make someone understand that what happened on Market Street mattered more than some arbitrary policy. But he didn't, because that's not who he was. That's not who his mother raised him to be. Jaden turned and walked out of room 402. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. Jaden sat on the stairs for a long time staring at his hands. The blood had dried to rust brown, crusted in the creases of his palms under his fingernails. Charlotte Whitmore's blood, though he didn't know her name yet. All he knew was that she'd been dying, and he'd stopped, and now his life was over. His phone buzzed. An email notification from Office of Financial Aid. Subject scholarship status alert. Priority urgent. His stomach dropped. "Dear Mr. Brooks, our records indicate that your GPA has fallen below the 3.0 minimum requirement for continuation of your presidential scholarship. As outlined in your scholarship agreement, this triggers an immediate review of your award status. Based on current grades, your scholarship has been revoked effective immediately. The full amount of this semester's tuition, $32,000, is now due and payable within 48 hours. Failure to pay will result in removal from all classes and administrative withdrawal from the university." 48 hours. $32,000 in 48 hours, or he was done. Not just done with nursing school, done with college entirely. Everyone was in class taking exams, moving forward with their lives, while his had just ended. The apartment was dark when Jaden got home. He hadn't gone to his other classes, hadn't checked his email again, hadn't done anything except walk the 7 miles from campus back to his apartment in South Philly because he couldn't afford the bus fare and couldn't stand the thought of sitting still. His roommate, Destiny, wasn't home. Tuesday afternoon meant she'd be at her shift at the hotel downtown cleaning rooms for $12 an hour, and whatever tips rich people felt generous enough to leave. The apartment was small, barely 600 square feet split between 2 people, but it was quiet, and right now, quiet was all Jaden could handle. He went to the bathroom and scrubbed his hands under scalding water until the dried blood finally loosened, swirling down the drain in pink ribbons. His scrubs were ruined. He'd probably have to buy new ones, except he had exactly $420 in his checking account, and new scrubs cost $45, and he needed that money for food and rent, and 100 other things that seemed absurd, now that he owed $32,000 in 47 hours and 23 minutes. Not that he was counting. Jaden changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt, dropped the bloody scrubs in the trash, and sat on his bed. The apartment was the kind of quiet that made everything louder, the refrigerator humming, the radiator clanking, the couple upstairs arguing about something in Spanish. He looked at the photograph on his nightstand, the only photograph he'd kept when Grandma Loretta had to sell the house and move into the senior apartment in Baltimore. His mother, Sarah Brooks, smiling at the camera with 8-year-old Jaden tucked under her arm. She was wearing her pharmacy tech uniform, the burgundy polo, with her name tag still pinned to the chest. They were standing outside the free clinic where she'd worked the place that could never quite pay her enough, but where she'd stayed anyway because people need their medicine, baby, and somebody's got to help them get it. She'd died 3 weeks after that photo was taken. Pneumonia. Simple pneumonia that could have been treated with antibiotics and rest. But antibiotics cost money they didn't have, and rest meant missing work, and missing work meant not making rent. And so she'd kept going, kept working, kept pushing through until the pneumonia turned into sepsis. And by the time Grandma Loretta finally convinced her to go to the ER, it was too late. Jaden remembered the hospital, the waiting room with the flickering TV and the plastic chairs that stuck to his legs. The way his mother had kept apologizing, "I'm sorry, baby, I'm so sorry," like dying was something she was doing to him on purpose. He remembered the doctor, a tired-looking white woman with kind eyes, explaining to Grandma Loretta that if they'd come in even 6 hours earlier, the antibiotics might have worked. 6 hours. That's all the difference between life and death. 6 hours they'd spent waiting because the ER was understaffed and his mother didn't have good insurance, and nobody seemed to think a black woman with a cough was much of a priority. Jaden had stood at her funeral in that goodwill suit and made his promise. "I'm going to be a nurse, Mama. I'm going to make sure nobody has to wait too long. Nobody's going to die because they couldn't afford help. I promise." He'd been 11 when he started volunteering at the free clinic where his mother used to work. 14 when he got his first aid certification. 16 when he shadowed nurses at Philadelphia General. 18 when he got accepted to college with a full scholarship that he'd earned through sheer determination and a 4.0 GPA that he'd maintained by sacrificing sleep and social life and anything resembling fun. Every step had been for her. Every late night studying, every double shift at work, every moment he wanted to quit. He'd done it for that promise. And now the promise had destroyed him. Jaden picked up his phone. 6 missed calls from Destiny. 3 texts. "Destiny girl, where are you? Destiny, did you see the news? Destiny Jaden, call me news." Jaden opened his browser and typed his name into Google. The results loaded slowly on his cracked phone screen. Nursing student saves woman's life, faces academic consequences. Philadelphia Inquirer, student misses exam after performing emergency CPR. Action News, Good Samaritan punished for helping university under fire. NBC, Philadelphia, Jaden's hands went numb. He clicked on the first link. There was a photo, grainy, taken from someone's phone of him kneeling on the sidewalk, his jacket pressed against Charlotte Whitmore's head. The article explained what happened, quoted the paramedic Rodriguez, saying he'd saved the woman's life, mentioned that he'd missed his exam and received a failing grade. The comments section was a war zone. "This is disgusting. That university should be ashamed. Of course they failed him. Let me guess he's black and the professor is white. Good for him for stopping. That takes real character. Or he could have called 911 and made it to his exam. Just saying. This is why our education system is broken. Punishing kindness." Jaden scrolled down, feeling sicker with every comment. This wasn't supposed to be public. This was supposed to be his private disaster, his personal failure. Now it was trending. Now strangers were arguing about whether he'd made the right choice. His phone rang. Unknown number. Jaden almost didn't answer, but something made him hit the green button. "Hello? Is this Jaden Brooks?" A woman's voice, professional, crisp. "Yeah. Who's this?" "My name is Amanda Chen. I'm a reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm writing a follow-up piece about your situation, and I was hoping you might be willing to comment." Jaden hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. He turned it off. Destiny came home at 11 p.m., still in her hotel uniform, smelling like industrial cleaner and cigarette smoke from the guest who'd left a $5 tip in a room that looked like a crime scene. She found Jaden exactly where he'd been for the past 6 hours, sitting on his bed, staring at the photo of his mother. "Jaden." Destiny dropped her bag by the door and crossed the small room in 3 steps. She was short Filipino with dark circles under her eyes that never quite went away, no matter how much she slept. They'd been roommates for 2 years, bonded by poverty and ambition, and the shared understanding of what it meant to be broke, in a city full of people who'd never worried about money in their lives. "Baby, what happened? I saw the news and I tried calling, but I failed my final." Jaden's voice sounded strange to his own ears. Flat, empty. "I lost my scholarship. I owe $32,000. I have 46 hours to pay, or I'm expelled." Destiny sat down on the bed beside him hard enough to make the frame creak. "Because you saved that woman's life. Because I was late to the exam. Because you were saving someone's life. Morrison said that was my choice." Jaden finally looked at her. He said if I'd made different choices, I'd still have my scholarship. He's right. You know, I could have called 911 and kept walking. I could have let someone else handle it. You could have let her die." Destiny's voice was sharp. "That's what you're saying. You could have stepped over a dying woman to protect your future." "Yes." The word hurt coming out. "That's exactly what I'm saying. And if I had, I'd be taking my exam right now instead of sitting here trying to figure out how to tell my grandmother that I threw away everything she sacrificed for." Destiny was quiet for a long moment. Then she said very softly, "My mom had a stroke 3 years ago." "Did I ever tell you that?" Jaden shook his head. "I was in class, anatomy and physiology, freshman year. I got a call from my dad saying mom collapsed at work and they were taking her to the hospital. I had an exam that day too, worth 30% of my grade." Destiny's hands twisted in her lap. "I stayed. I took the exam. I got an A. I went to the hospital after, and by the time I got there, she'd already had the surgery. She was okay, but..." Her voice cracked slightly. "She was awake when they brought her in. Dad said she kept asking for me, kept asking where I was." Destiny. "I made the right choice." Destiny made air quotes bitter. "I protected my future. I kept my scholarship. I graduated with honors. And you know what I think about every time I see her now? Every time she struggles to remember a word or can't use her left hand quite right, I think about how I wasn't there. I think about how I chose a test over her." She looked at Jaden, her eyes wet. "You didn't make the wrong choice, Jaden. You made the only choice a decent person could make. Morrison's the one who's wrong. The system's wrong, not you." Jaden wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to believe her. But belief didn't pay $32,000. Belief didn't get him back into school. Belief didn't keep the promise he'd made to his mother. "It doesn't matter if I was right," he said quietly. "I still lost everything." Destiny opened her mouth to respond, but Jaden's phone, which he'd turned back on to check the time, buzzed with a text message. "Unknown number. This is James Sullivan, attorney for Charlotte Whitmore. Miss Whitmore would like to speak with you regarding recent events. Please call at your earliest convenience." A phone number followed. Jaden showed the screen to Destiny. "Charlotte Whitmore," Destiny read aloud. "That's the woman you saved." "I guess." "She's reaching out. That's good, right? Maybe she can help. Maybe she can talk to the university. Maybe she wants to thank me for ruining my life to save hers." Jaden's voice came out harsher than he intended. He softened it. "Sorry, I can't deal with this right now. You should call her. Tomorrow." "Jaden? Tomorrow, Des, please. I need tonight to fall apart in peace." Destiny looked like she wanted to argue, but instead, she just pulled him into a hug. She smelled like bleach and sweat and friendship, and Jaden let himself lean into it for just a moment before pulling away. "I'm gonna try to sleep," he said, even though he knew he wouldn't. Destiny nodded and headed to her room, but paused at the door. "Hey, Jaden, for what it's worth, your mom would be proud. Not because you're gonna be a nurse, maybe you won't be now, I don't know. But because when someone needed help, you didn't walk away. That's what she taught you, right? That's the promise." She closed the door before Jaden could respond. He sat alone in the dark looking at his mother's photograph and wondered if Destiny was right. Wondered if his mother would trade his future for a stranger's life. Wondered if the promise he'd made had ever been about nursing school at all or about something bigger that he'd lost sight of somewhere along the way. His phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. "Miss Whitmore asked me to tell you, thank you for stopping. I know what it cost you. Let me help." Jaden stared at the message for a long time. Then he turned off his phone, lay down on his bed, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. Jaden woke up to pounding on his apartment door. For a confused moment, he thought it was part of the nightmare, the one where he was back on Market Street watching the woman die over and over while Professor Morrison stood beside him with a stopwatch. Then the pounding came again. "Jaden Brooks, I have a delivery for Jaden Brooks." Jaden opened the door to find a man in a crisp black suit holding a manila envelope. Behind him, Mrs. Rodriguez from 2C peered out her door, rosary beads clutched tight. The man handed him the envelope. "From Miss Charlotte Whitmore. She requests that you read this immediately." He walked back down the stairs before Jaden could respond. Jaden tore open the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on cream-colored paper with a monogram CW and a business card for James Sullivan, attorney at law. "Dear Jaden, I'm alive because of you. The doctors tell me that another 12 minutes would have been too late. You saved my life at great personal cost, and I cannot let that sacrifice go unanswered. I know about the exam. I know about your scholarship. I know what you lost. Please allow me to help. This is not charity. This is gratitude in an attempt to correct an injustice. With deepest thanks, Charlotte Whitmore." His phone buzzed. Jaden walked to the window and looked down. A black Rolls-Royce was parked directly in front of his building, the kind that looked like it cost more than his entire apartment building. On the door panel, Whitmore Foundation. People were gathering. Mr. Chen from the corner store stood staring. 3 kids had stopped to take pictures. Mrs. Rodriguez was making the sign of the cross repeatedly. The rear door opened. Charlotte Whitmore stepped out. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, though Jaden could see a small white bandage near her hairline. She wore a cream-colored coat that probably cost more than a semester of tuition. Her movements were careful, deliberate, someone still recovering, but determined not to show weakness. She looked up at Jaden's window. Their eyes met. His phone buzzed. "May I come up?" J.S. Jaden looked around his apartment, at the water stain on the ceiling, at the furniture Destiny had found on the sidewalk, at the ramen cup from last night. He couldn't let Charlotte Whitmore see the gap between her world and his. But she was already here, already seeing the reality of his life. Apartment 3, B. Footsteps on the stairs, more than one set. Charlotte appeared first, taking the stairs slowly, one hand on the railing. Behind her came a man in an expensive suit, carrying a briefcase, James Sullivan, and behind him another man in a black suit, radiating security. Charlotte reached the landing and paused to catch her breath, her face slightly pale. "Miss Whitmore," Jaden said uncertainly, "you should be resting." "I'm fine. Or I will be thanks to you." She extended her hand. "We didn't properly meet. I'm Charlotte." Jaden shook her hand. "Jaden Brooks. But you know that already. May we come in?" They entered his tiny apartment. Charlotte's eyes moved around the space, the cramped living area, the ancient appliances, the bathroom door that didn't quite close. Jaden waited for the judgment. It didn't come. Instead, Charlotte's gaze settled on the photograph on his nightstand. She moved closer. "Your mother?" "Yeah, she died when I was 8. She has a beautiful smile. You have her eyes." Something in Jaden's chest loosened. Sullivan cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should sit down." Charlotte sat in the armchair, the one Destiny had reupholstered with discount fabric. "Jaden, please sit. We have a lot to discuss." Jaden sat on the edge of his bed. Sullivan opened his briefcase with precise movements. "First," Charlotte said, "I want to thank you. You saved my life. The doctors were very clear about that." "You don't need to thank me," Jaden said quietly. "Anyone would have done the same." "Except they didn't." Charlotte's voice sharpened. "I've seen the video on TikTok. Over 100 million views. You know what? You can see dozens of people walking past me. You were the only one who stopped, the only one who cared enough to give up something important for a stranger, and then your university punished you for it. It was the policy. I was late. Because you were performing CPR on a dying woman." Sullivan pulled out a thick folder. "We've reviewed the university's policies and Professor Morrison's history. In the past 5 years, 47 students requested accommodations for emergencies. Would you like to know how many were granted?" Jaden didn't want to know, but he asked. "How many?" 8. 8 out of 47. Sullivan pulled out another sheet. "Would you like to know what those 8 had in common?" The silence was suffocating. "They were white," Charlotte said flatly. "Every single one, and most came from families who donated to the university." Jaden felt like the floor had dropped. "That's discrimination. That's illegal." "Very illegal," Sullivan said grimly, "which is why it was done quietly through unofficial channels, never formally documented. A makeup exam here, a grade adjusted there. All very convenient, all very deniable. But we have phone records, emails faculty thought were deleted, 5 years of data showing a clear pattern." Charlotte stood, moving to the window. "I called Dean Morrison yesterday. He said your situation was a dramatic rescue story, but policies exist for a reason. He processed your appeal in 38 seconds. 38 seconds to decide that saving a human life wasn't sufficient grounds for accommodation." She turned to face Jaden. "Then I asked about Bradley Harrison, who missed an exam in 2023 because he was hungover after his fraternity's spring formal. He got a makeup exam. Unofficial, of course. His grade was never impacted, his scholarship never at risk. Bradley Harrison's father donated $200,000 to build the new student center. Bradley Harrison is white, and Bradley Harrison got a second chance you were denied." Jaden stood abruptly, hands shaking. "Why are you telling me this? What do you want?" "I want to help you." Charlotte's voice softened. You lost your scholarship. You're facing $32,000 in debt. Your academic career is being destroyed because you did the right thing. I can't let that stand. So you're going to write me a check. That's charity. That's guilt because I saved your life, and now my life is ruined. You're right. I do feel guilty. Charlotte's response caught him off guard. But that's not why I'm offering to help. When I was in the ambulance, I heard the paramedics say, you were a nursing student who'd probably just destroyed your academic career to save my life. All I could think was that for 30 years, I've walked past people who needed help. I've lived in a bubble of privilege and convinced myself that donations were enough. Then I woke up in a hospital with my husband crying beside me, and I realized I was only alive because someone decided my life mattered more than his future. How do I live with that? How do I pretend that's okay? That's not my problem to solve. You're right, it's mine. Charlotte straightened. Which is why I'm not offering charity. I'm offering justice. Sullivan spoke up. We want to sue the university. Title VI lawsuit for racial discrimination. We have the evidence, the pattern your case as catalyst. We'll file the lawsuit, force the university to address discriminatory practices, and fight to get your scholarship reinstated. A lawsuit would take years. I'll cover all legal fees, Charlotte said firmly, but I'll still be expelled. I have 44 hours to come up with $32,000. We're filing for an immediate injunction preventing expulsion while the lawsuit is pending, Sullivan explained. We'll also file to have your scholarship reinstated pending outcome. And if we lose, then I'll pay your tuition myself, Charlotte said simply. But we won't lose. The evidence is overwhelming. What are the risks? Jaden asked Sullivan. Significant. You'll be publicly challenging the university. They'll fight back hard, try to discredit you. Your name will be in the news constantly. Other universities might be hesitant. This could follow you for years. But, Charlotte interjected, if we win, you'll set a precedent protecting every student who comes after you. You'll force policy changes. You'll make sure the next student who stops to save a life doesn't lose everything. Jaden thought about the 47 students, about his mother, about the promise he'd made. I need to think about it. Of course. Charlotte stood moving toward the door. But Jaden, I've spent 30 years building wealth donating to universities. I thought I was making a difference. But in 30 seconds on a sidewalk, you showed more real compassion than I've shown in 3 decades. You didn't think about the cost. You just helped. She paused at the door. That's who you are. Don't let them take that from you. Don't let them make you regret being a good person. Then she was gone, Sullivan and the security guard following. Jaden walked to the window and watched the Rolls-Royce pull away, sleek and expensive and completely out of place. His phone buzzed. Charlotte, James just called. Morrison contacted you. I'm assuming you told him to shove his settlement, CW. How did you know? Because I've been getting calls from board members begging me to convince you to take the deal. They're terrified. The hashtag is still trending. The petition has 200,000 signatures. Students are planning a walkout tomorrow. They're panicking. Good. Let them panic. CEU, get some sleep. Tomorrow we file the lawsuit. And Jaden, I'm proud of you. Your mother would be too. CW. Jaden stared at the message, vision blurring. He looked at his mother's photograph, at her smile, bright and hopeful. The eviction notice appeared on Jaden's door at 6 a.m. that same day. Not a formal legal document, just a printed letter taped to the door, the kind landlords use to scare tenants before going through official channels. Past due rent $920. Pay within 72 hours or face removal. Jaden stood in the hallway, staring at it, doing the math that had been running through his head since yesterday. $32,000 for tuition, $920 for rent, $420 in his bank account. No matter how many times he calculated it, the numbers didn't change. He was drowning. Destiny found him still standing there 20 minutes later when she got home from her shift. She read the notice over his shoulder and swore quietly in Tagalog. When's the last time you ate something? Jaden couldn't remember. Come on. She pulled him inside and started rummaging through their nearly empty cabinet. She found a packet of ramen, some eggs, and half a container of kimchi. Sit. I'm making dinner. Des, you don't have to. Shut up and sit. Jaden sat. Destiny worked in silence, boiling water, cracking eggs, her movements efficient from years working in her parents' restaurant. When she set a bowl in front of Jaden, the ramen was dressed up with a perfectly soft-boiled egg, kimchi, and scallions from the windowsill pot. Eat, she commanded. Jaden ate. He hadn't realized how hungry he was until the first bite, and then he couldn't stop. The food was simple but hot and real, and for a few minutes he could pretend his life wasn't falling apart. Destiny made herself a bowl and sat across from him. "Okay, talk to me." What did Charlotte Whitmore really want? Jaden told her everything. The lawsuit, the evidence of discrimination, the offer to pay his tuition if they lost, the risks Sullivan had outlined. When he finished, Destiny was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You're going to do it." "I don't know if I am." "Yes, you do." Destiny leaned forward. "Jaden, I've known you for 2 years. I've watched you study until 3 in the morning. I've seen you skip meals to save money. I've heard you on the phone with your grandma promising you're going to make it. You don't give up. That's not who you are." "This is different." Jaden pushed his bowl away. "If I sue the university, I'm making myself a target. I'm putting everything on the line for something that might not even work. And even if we win, what then? I go back to a school where everyone knows I sued them, where Morrison and everyone else will be looking for any excuse to get rid of me." "So you let them win." Destiny's voice rose. "You let them kick you out, destroy your future, and prove they were right to fail you." "That's not what I—" "Then what?" Destiny stood up abruptly. "What's the alternative? You don't have $32,000. You don't have $920 for rent. In 3 days, you're going to be expelled and evicted, and everything you've worked for is going to be gone anyway. Charlotte Whitmore is offering you a chance to fight back, and you're sitting here acting like it's some huge risk when you've already lost everything." Her words hit like physical blows. "You want to know what I think?" Destiny's hands were shaking now. "I think you're scared. Not of the lawsuit, not of the university. You're scared that if you fight back and still lose, then you'll have to admit that the system is actually broken, that it doesn't matter how hard you work, or how good you are, or how many lives you save. If you're black and poor, the deck is stacked against you. And if you have to admit that, then everything your mom believed, everything she taught you about being good and working hard and helping people, it was all a lie." "Don't." Jaden's voice came out strangled. "Don't talk about my mother." "Why not? She's the reason you're in this mess." Destiny's eyes were bright with tears. "You stopped to help that woman because your mom taught you that's what you do. You became a nurse because your mom died and you wanted to save people like her. You made a promise to a dead woman and you've been killing yourself trying to keep it. And now that promise is destroying you and you won't even fight back because you're terrified that fighting back means admitting she was wrong." "She wasn't wrong." Jaden was on his feet shouting. "She wasn't wrong to help people. She wasn't wrong to believe that kindness matters. She wasn't." His voice broke. Destiny crossed the room and pulled him into a fierce hug. "No, she wasn't wrong. But the people who let her die were. The people who failed you are. And Charlotte Whitmore is giving you a chance to make them answer for it." Jaden's phone rang. James Sullivan. He answered. "Hello. Jaden, I need you to turn on the news, Channel 6, now." Destiny grabbed the remote and turned on their ancient TV. It flickered before stabilizing on the local news. Dean Patrick Morrison's face filled the screen. He was standing behind a podium in one of the university's conference rooms, looking solemn and professional in his expensive suit. Behind him, the university seal with its motto about truth and knowledge embossed in gold. "Understand that there has been significant public interest in this matter," Morrison was saying, his voice measured and calm. "But I want to be absolutely clear. The university's policies exist to maintain academic integrity. We cannot and will not compromise our standards, regardless of external pressure." A reporter's voice. "But Mr. Brooks was saving a woman's life. Doesn't that constitute an emergency?" Mr. Brooks made a choice. He chose to stop and assist someone rather than arrive on time for his scheduled examination. That was his decision. However, decisions have consequences. The examination began at 9 a.m. He arrived at 9:01. Our policy is clear. Another reporter, "But there are reports that other students have been given accommodations. How do you respond to allegations of inconsistent application? Those allegations are completely false." Morrison's voice hardened. "Every student at this university is held to the same standard. We do not discriminate based on race, gender, or any other factor. The suggestion that we do is not only inaccurate, but frankly offensive." "What about the Title VI lawsuit that's been threatened?" "We are aware of the threat. We welcome any investigation. We have nothing to hide. Our policies are applied fairly and consistently. We are confident that any review will confirm this." The camera cut back to the news anchors. They were showing the TikTok video, now grainy footage of Jaden kneeling on the sidewalk, his jacket pressed to Charlotte's head, people walking past. The view, count 147 million. He's lying. Destiny's voice was flat. He's standing there on TV lying about everything and acting like you're the problem. Sullivan's voice came through the phone. Jaden, are you seeing this? Yeah. He's trying to control the narrative, going on the offensive before we can file the lawsuit. We need to respond. Tonight, if possible. Charlotte wants to hold a press conference tomorrow morning. She wants you there. A press conference? Jaden felt detached from his own body. You want me to go on TV? I want you to tell your story before Morrison completely rewrites it. Right now, he's painting you as an irresponsible student who missed an exam and is trying to use a dramatic rescue as an excuse. We need to show the truth. We need to show the evidence of discrimination, and we need you to be the face of that truth. Jaden looked at Destiny. She was watching him, her expression fierce and determined. He thought about Morrison standing at that podium lying so smoothly. Thought about the 47 students who'd been denied accommodations. Thought about Bradley Harrison getting his makeup exam while Jaden got expelled. Thought about his mother dying because she'd waited too long because nobody had seen her as a priority. Jaden, Sullivan's voice. What do you want to do? Jaden looked at the TV screen showing his official student portrait from freshman year. He looked so young in that photo, so hopeful. I want to fight back, Jaden said quietly. What was that? I said I want to fight back. Louder now. I'll do the press conference. I'll do the lawsuit. I'll do whatever it takes. He could hear Sullivan's exhale of relief. Good. I'll send you the details. We're meeting at Charlotte's office downtown tomorrow at 9 a.m. Come prepared to tell your story. All of it. Don't hold back. Sullivan hung up. Jaden set down his phone and looked at Destiny. I'm doing it. I know. She was crying now, not bothering to hide it. I'm proud of you. I'm terrified. Good. You should be. This is terrifying. But you're doing it anyway. That's what bravery is. Jaden's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Charlotte. James told me you're in. Thank you for trusting me. Tomorrow we make them listen. Get some rest. You're going to need it. Then another text. Also, I've wired $920 to your landlord for this month's rent. Consider it a down payment on justice. CW. Jaden stared at the message, felt something in his chest that might have been hope, or might have been terror, or might have been both. Destiny read over his shoulder. She paid your rent. She paid my rent. Jaden Brooks, you're going to war with a billionaire on your side. Those bastards don't know what's coming. Jaden thought about Morrison's face on TV, thought about the lies, the smooth denial, the absolute certainty that he would win because people like him always won. No, Jaden said softly. They really don't. He picked up his mother's photograph, looked at her smile one more time, and made a different kind of promise. I'm not just fighting for me, Mama. I'm fighting for everyone. I'm fighting so the next person who stops to help doesn't lose everything. I'm fighting to make them see that compassion isn't weakness. I'm fighting to make your death mean something. He set down the photograph and started preparing for tomorrow. The war was just beginning. The Whitmore Foundation offices occupied the 42nd floor of the Comcast Technology Center. Jaden had never been this high up. From here, the streets where he'd grown up looked like toys. Charlotte had sent a car at 7:30 a.m. Mrs. Rodriguez had blessed him 3 times, pressing a St. Jude medal into his palm. For impossible causes, you gonna need him, Miko. Now, Jaden sat in a conference room bigger than his apartment, surrounded by lawyers and consultants. James Sullivan sat at the head, flanked by attorneys. Charlotte was there, too pale but focused. Let's begin, Sullivan said, opening a laptop. Jaden, what we're about to show you will be difficult. Stay calm and listen before you react. He turned the screen. This is 5 years of data on emergency accommodation requests. The first slide showed a bar graph. Blue for requests, red for granted, green for denied. In the School of Nursing, 47 requests over 5 years. Students who missed exams due to documented emergencies, medical issues, family deaths, accidents. Next slide, broken down by race. Jaden's stomach dropped. Of 47 requests, 37 came from students of color. 10 from white students. Sullivan's voice was clinical but angry underneath. Of those 37 students of color, only 3 received accommodations. 8% approval rate. Another click. Of 10 white students, 8 received accommodations. 80% approval rate. The statistical probability of this being random is less than 0.01%. This is systematic discrimination. Show him the recordings, Charlotte said quietly. Sullivan placed a small device on the table. Audio recordings from faculty meetings. Completely legal, Pennsylvania is one-party consent. A professor disturbed by what he heard started documenting 3 years ago. He came forward when he saw your story. He pressed play. Morrison's voice filled the room. We need to be careful about precedents. If we allow Mr. Johnson to retake the exam because of his grandmother's death, every student with a family emergency will expect the same. Another voice, female, older. But Patrick, his grandmother raised him. She died suddenly. He found her body. That's significant trauma. I'm not disputing the trauma. I'm saying we have policies for a reason. Mr. Johnson should have been more prepared. These students need to learn responsibility. We approved Emily Bradford's makeup exam when her parents took her to Aspen and she missed the final. That was different. Emily's parents scheduled that trip months in advance. It was a miscommunication. And frankly, Emily's academic record was exemplary. She'd earned some flexibility. Pause. Emily had a 4.0. And let's be honest, Patricia, the Bradford family, has been generous supporters. We need to maintain those relationships. Marcus Johnson has a 3.7 GPA. Emily had a 4.0. The recording clicked off. Sullivan played another. Morrison, again, different meeting. Proposal to create an official policy for emergency accommodations. I disagree. The moment we codify exceptions, we lose discretion. We need case-by-case evaluation. A rigid policy doesn't allow for nuance. Doesn't that open us to claims of bias? Only if someone can prove a pattern. These are individual decisions by different faculty across years. There's no pattern to prove. Sullivan played 3 more recordings, each worse than the last. Faculty discussing students in ways that made Jaden sick. Casual racism wrapped in academic language. One recording stood out. Morrison about a Latina student in a car accident. She's probably going to fail out anyway. Her English skills aren't strong enough for clinical work. We'd be doing her a favor by not dragging this out. She has the same GPA as half her cohort. On paper, maybe. But you've seen how she communicates with patients. There's a reason most successful graduates come from certain backgrounds. They're prepared for this rigor. When the recordings ended, silence filled the room. Charlotte spoke first. I've listened to these multiple times. I need to understand what we're fighting. She leaned forward. This isn't one bad professor. This is institutional racism, a system designed to favor people who look like me and exclude people who look like you, operating in plain sight because nobody with power cared to stop it. Until now. Sullivan closed his laptop. The professor who recorded these will testify. We have statistical data. We have your case as catalyst. The university will have to answer for all of it. Jaden found his voice. What happened to the other students, the ones denied? Michelle Carter, a black attorney, spoke up. We've found 31 of 37. Most dropped out. A few transferred. 2 finished their degrees, but took extra years, meaning more debt. None complained officially. They feared retaliation. And the white students who got accommodations, all 8 graduated on time. 6 are working in their field. 2 went to graduate school. Michelle's voice was bitter. They moved forward while students of color got pushed out. Jaden thought about Marcus Johnson, about the Latina student Morrison dismissed, about 37 students whose stories mirrored his own poor working-class first generation, told their entire lives that hard work would make the system fair. Students learning the same lesson he was, the system was never designed to be fair. I want to meet them, Jaden said suddenly. The other students, I want to talk to them. Sullivan and Charlotte exchanged glances. That can be arranged, Sullivan said carefully, but understand many are angry. Some might resent that you're getting attention, that Charlotte's resources are behind your case when they face this alone. I know. I still want to meet them. If we're fighting this, I need them to know I see them. I'm not just fighting for myself. Charlotte smiled genuinely for the first time. That's exactly right. Michelle set up meetings. I'll make calls. I know 3 who are local. We can get them here this afternoon. Charlotte stood, moving to the windows. When I built this foundation, I thought I was making a difference. Donated millions to universities, funded scholarships, sat on boards. She turned back. But I was writing checks to institutions using my money to maintain systems that keep people like Jaden out. I was complicit. I didn't look close enough. She placed both hands on the table. That ends now. We're not just fighting for Jaden's scholarship. We're dismantling every policy, every practice, every unwritten rule that allows this discrimination. And we're making sure every university knows if they're taking donor money, they'll be held accountable. Sullivan stood. Which brings us to the press conference, 2 p.m. today. 6 hours to prepare. Charlotte will make a statement. I'll present evidence. Jaden, you tell your story. What do I say? The truth, Charlotte said gently. Tell them about your mother, the promise you made, why you stopped on Market Street and what it cost. Don't perform. Just be exactly who you are. They're going to attack me. Jaden had been thinking about this. They'll say I'm looking for a payday. Dig into my background, try to make me look like I don't deserve to be there. Yes, Sullivan said bluntly. They will. That's why your story must be airtight and honest. The more truthful you are, the harder to discredit. A knock. A young woman entered. Miss Whitmore situation. Dean Morrison announced another press conference for noon. Setting the record straight. Charlotte's expression hardened. He's trying to get ahead of us, poison the well before we present evidence. So we move ours up, Michelle said. Go now, before he controls the narrative. Can we be ready? Charlotte looked at Sullivan. We don't have a choice. If Morrison defines this story first, we're fighting uphill. Sullivan looked at Jaden. Are you ready? No, Jaden wasn't ready. He was terrified, exhausted, 24 hours from expulsion, about to accuse a major university of systematic racism. But he thought about Marcus Johnson, about the Latina student, about 37 students pushed out while mediocre white students got second chances, about his mother dying because she hadn't been a priority. No, Jaden said honestly, I'm not ready, but let's do it anyway. The board members were already wiping their eyes. The pattern was undeniable. Charlotte turned to Jaden. Last chance to back out. If you do this, there's no taking it back. Your life becomes very public and very complicated. I know. Jaden thought about his mother, about the promise, about who he wanted to be. But I didn't stop on Market Street because it was convenient. I stopped because it was right. This is the same thing. No, Charlotte said quietly. This is harder. Market Street was instinct. This is choosing to walk into a fight you know will be brutal. This is courage, not reflex. She held out her hand. Come on, let's show them what courage looks like. The press conference was scheduled for 11 a.m. in the main hall of the Whitmore Foundation. By 10:30, the room was packed with at least 50 reporters, camera crews from every local station, plus CNN and MSNBC print journalists with recorders. Jaden stood backstage trying to remember how to breathe. Through a gap in the curtains, he could see the crowd waiting to judge whether he deserved sympathy or scorn. Drink this. Destiny appeared with water. She'd skipped classes to be here. And stop looking at the crowd. You're going to psych yourself out. Too late. But Jaden took the water. Charlotte was on her phone nearby. I don't care what he's planning. We present the evidence and let it speak for itself. She hung up and turned to them. That was University President Richard Carver. He wanted to discuss this privately before it goes public. What did you tell him? Destiny asked. That we're past private discussions. I'm suspending all future donations, $45 million in active grants, and $90 million in planned donations until they agree to a full independent audit. Charlotte's voice was cold. If they don't agree, I'll publicly call for other donors to follow my lead. You're cutting off their funding. Jaden's eyes widened. I'm cutting off my funding. What others do is up to them. But Richard Carver knows if I go public, other major donors will start asking questions. Nobody wants association with civil rights violations. Sullivan emerged with Michelle Carter. We have a problem. Morrison's lawyers sent a letter threatening legal action if we make defamatory statements. They're also threatening to sue for tortious interference if we encourage donors to withdraw funding. Let them. Charlotte didn't even look. We have 5 years of documentation and recordings. Truth is absolute defense to defamation. As for tortious interference, I'm choosing how to spend my own money. They're also offering a settlement. Sullivan scrolled his phone. Full reinstatement of Jaden's scholarship makeup exam within the week and $50,000 in exchange for signing an NDA and agreeing not to pursue legal action or speak publicly. Silence. $50,000. Scholarship reinstated. A chance to salvage his future. All he had to do was sign and promise never to talk about Marcus Johnson or the 37 others. Never force the university to change. Never make sure the next student wouldn't have to choose. That's what they think this is worth, Jaden said quietly. $50,000 and my silence. It's standard, Michelle said. They're trying to make this disappear before it becomes bigger scandal. It is a lot of money. Jaden thought about his bank account, about how $50,000 could change his life, give him security he'd never had. But it wouldn't change anything for students already pushed out, wouldn't stop the university from doing this again, wouldn't make the system less broken. I'm not signing it. You should think about it, Sullivan said carefully. $50,000 is significant. There's no guarantee we'll win in court. Discrimination cases are difficult. I know. Jaden looked at Charlotte. You said you've spent 30 years writing checks thinking you were making a difference, that you were complicit because you didn't ask hard enough questions. If I take their money and sign their NDA, I'm doing the same thing. Taking a payoff to make myself comfortable while the system keeps hurting people. Charlotte's eyes were bright. She nodded, once sharp and approving. Then we turn down the settlement, Michelle said, and Jaden, be prepared when they realize you're not taking their money. They're going to come at you hard. They'll dig into every aspect of your life looking for ammunition. Let them dig. Jaden's fear was still there, but mixed with anger and purpose. I've got nothing to hide. I'm exactly who I say I am, a nursing student who stopped to save someone's life and got punished. That's the truth. They can't change that. The young woman from earlier appeared. Miss Whitmore, it's time. The cameras are ready. Charlotte stood smoothing her suit. She looked at Jaden. Last chance to back out. If you walk out there and tell your story, there's no taking it back. Your life becomes very public and very complicated. I know, but I didn't stop on Market Street because it was convenient. I stopped because it was right. This is the same thing. No, Charlotte said quietly. This is harder. Market Street was instinct. This is choosing to walk into a brutal fight. This is courage, not reflex. The main hall was designed to impress high ceilings, modern architecture walls of windows, but Jaden could only see the crowd, the cameras, the reporters with hungry expressions. Charlotte walked to the podium, Jaden and Sullivan flanking her. Camera flashes were immediate and blinding. Thank you for coming on short notice, Charlotte began, voice steady. I'm Charlotte Whitmore. 5 days ago, I collapsed on Market Street from traumatic brain injury. I should have died on that sidewalk. I would have died if not for Jaden Brooks, who sacrificed his future to save my life. She paused. Jaden is a senior nursing student. He was on his way to his final exam when he found me bleeding and unconscious. Dozens of people walked past me, but Jaden stopped. He performed emergency first aid until the ambulance arrived. Paramedics told him if he'd been 10 minutes later, I wouldn't have survived. For this act of compassion, for choosing to save a human life instead of protecting his schedule, Jaden was given a failing grade. He lost his scholarship, $32,000 he cannot afford. He was given 48 hours to pay or face expulsion. His academic career was destroyed because he chose not to let me die. The crowd erupted. Charlotte held up one hand for silence. I know what some of you are thinking. Rules are rules. The exam started at 9 and Jaden arrived late, but this isn't about one exam or one policy. This is about a pattern of discrimination operating at this university for years. Sullivan stepped forward, clicking a remote. The screen lit up with the graph showing accommodation requests broken down by race. Over 5 years, Sullivan said, 37 students of color requested emergency accommodations. 3 were granted, 8% approval rate. 10 white students made similar requests. 8 were granted, 80%. The crowd noise grew. Sullivan clicked to the next slide. This isn't isolated incidents. This is systematic discrimination. We have documentation, statistical evidence, and audio recordings of faculty meetings where this discrimination was discussed openly. He played one of the recordings, Morrison's voice, about maintaining standards and protecting the program. In the silence with 50 reporters listening, it sounded damning. When it finished, the crowd exploded. Sullivan held up his hand. We're filing a Title VI lawsuit for racial discrimination. We're seeking full reinstatement of Mr. Brooks' scholarship policy reform and damages on behalf of 37 students denied accommodations. We're calling for an independent audit across all departments. He stepped back. Charlotte gestured for Jaden. This was it. His moment to tell his story or fall apart in front of 50 cameras. Jaden's legs felt weak, but he walked to the podium. The microphone was too tall adjusted for Charlotte's height, and he lowered it with shaking hands. Hi. His voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. My name is Jaden Brooks. I'm 19 years old. I'm a nursing student, or I was. I'm not sure what I am right now. A few scattered laughs. Not mean, just acknowledgement. When I was 8, my mom died from pneumonia that turned into sepsis. We waited too long to go to the ER because we couldn't afford it. When we finally went, they made us wait because she didn't have good insurance. By the time they saw her, it was too late. His voice cracked. I stood at her funeral and promised I would become a nurse, that I would make sure nobody else had to wait too long, that I would help people. He looked up at the crowd, at the cameras, at the reporters watching with varying degrees of sympathy and skepticism. Tuesday morning, I saw a woman dying on the sidewalk. I knew if I stopped, I would miss my exam. I knew what it would cost me, but I also knew that if I kept walking, she would die. So I stopped. I did CPR. I kept pressure on her wound. I stayed until help arrived. Jaden's hands gripped the podium, and I would do it again. Even knowing what it cost me, I would still stop. Because that's what my mother taught me. That's what being a nurse means. You don't walk past people who need help. The hall was silent. Professor Morrison told me I made a choice. He's right, I did. But he also made a choice. He chose to punish me for saving someone's life. He chose to fail me even though he's given white students second chances for far less serious reasons. He chose to protect his policies instead of doing what was right. Jaden's voice grew stronger. And you know what? I'm not sorry I stopped. I'm not sorry I saved Miss Whitmore's life. I'm only sorry that I go to a school that would rather I let someone die than be 14 minutes late to an exam. He stepped back. The crowd erupted into chaos. Questions shouted from every direction, cameras flashing like lightning. Charlotte stepped forward, her hand on Jaden's shoulder, steadying. We'll take questions. But I want to be clear, the university has offered us a settlement. $50,000 and Jaden's scholarship reinstated in exchange for his silence. We are rejecting that offer. This is not about money. This is about justice. A young black woman from the Philadelphia Tribune raised her hand. Question for Mr. Brooks? The university says you could have called 911 and continued to your exam. How do you respond? Jaden leaned toward the microphone. The paramedic told me that if I'd left, Miss Whitmore would have died before the ambulance arrived. So yes, I could have called 911 and walked away. I could have let her die alone while I protected my grade. Is that really what we want to teach nursing students? That policies matter more than human lives. An older white man from CNN, Miss Whitmore, you're threatening to withdraw $90 million. Isn't that using wealth to bully the university into preferential treatment? Charlotte's smile was sharp. I'm choosing not to donate to an institution that systematically discriminates against students of color. That's not bullying. That's accountability. I encourage every donor to ask whether they want their money supporting these practices. More questions, more answers. 45 minutes until Sullivan called an end. As they walked off stage, Jaden's phone started buzzing uncontrollably. Text messages, emails, missed calls, social media notifications piling up. He looked at the screen. Twitter was exploding. #Justice for Jaden was trending #1 nationwide. People were angry. Not at him, at the university. Destiny grabbed his arm. Jaden, look. Instagram. A photo of the press conference. If your school would rather students let people die than be late to class, your school is broken. #Justice for Jaden. 2 million likes. Charlotte's phone rang. She answered listen, then smiled, cold and satisfied. That was Richard Carver. The university is calling an emergency board meeting tonight. They want to negotiate. What do we tell them? Sullivan asked. We tell them it's too late for negotiations. Charlotte looked at Jaden. We're filing the lawsuit today. And we're not stopping until every discriminatory policy is destroyed. Jaden thought about Marcus Johnson, about 37 students, about his mother. Good, he said. Let's burn it all down. The phone call came at 11:47 p.m. Jaden was still awake, scrolling through endless messages from the press conference. The number was local, but unfamiliar. Mr. Brooks. The voice was smooth, practiced. This is Dean Patrick Morrison. I hope I'm not calling too late. Jaden sat up fast, moved to the bathroom, closing the door quietly. Professor Morrison. Dean Morrison, actually. Jaden, I've been authorized by the university president to make you an offer. We're prepared to offer full reinstatement of your scholarship, a makeup exam administered by an independent proctor, and a confidential payment of $150,000. $150,000. Jaden looked at himself in the mirror. He looked exhausted, broke, like someone who desperately needed that money. In exchange for what? Your agreement not to pursue legal action, sign an NDA, and move forward with your education. Morrison's voice shifted, became almost paternal. Think about what you're risking. Even if you win this lawsuit, you'll spend years in legal battles. You'll be known as the student who sued his university. That reputation will follow you. Graduate programs will hesitate. Hospitals will think twice. Is that really what you want? Jaden thought about the recordings Sullivan had played, about Morrison discussing students like problems to manage rather than human beings. What about the other students, the 37 who were denied accommodations? What are you offering them? Long pause. This offer is specifically for your situation. So you're offering me $150,000 to shut up, but the other students you discriminated against get nothing. Jaden's voice was steady. I heard the recordings, Dean Morrison. I heard you talking about Marcus Johnson, about Emily Bradford's trip to Aspen being a miscommunication that deserved flexibility. Don't tell me there's no pattern. Those recordings were obtained illegally. Pennsylvania is a one-party consent state, and you know it. Jaden was surprised by his own calm. You called me at midnight because you're scared. The press conference worked, and you're terrified. What I am is someone who's dedicated 30 years to maintaining academic standards. Morrison's voice turned ice cold. If you don't accept this offer, the university will fight you with everything we have. We will examine every aspect of your life, every grade, every mistake. By the time we're done, the entire country will know every embarrassing detail of your existence. He paused. Even if you win, you'll be destroyed. No hospital will hire you. You'll be radioactive, the nursing student who cried racism. Is your pride worth destroying your future? Jaden thought about his mother, about the promise he'd made. Yes, he said, it's worth it, because this isn't about pride. This is about making sure the next student who stops to save a life doesn't lose everything. This is about Marcus Johnson and 36 others whose lives you ruined. So no, Dean Morrison, I'm not taking your money. I'll see you in court. He hung up. His hands were shaking. He'd just turned down $150,000. He'd just made himself a target. Destiny was in the hallway when he opened the door. Was that Morrison? Offering $150,000 to drop the lawsuit. Her eyes went wide. What did you say? I told him to go to hell. Destiny started laughing deep belly laughs of disbelief. You told a dean to go to hell. You turned down $150,000. Jaden Brooks, you absolute madman. I'm an idiot. No. Destiny's expression turned fierce. You're someone who can't be bought. Do you know how rare that is? Jaden's phone buzzed. Charlotte, James just called. Morrison contacted you. I'm assuming you told him to shove his settlement, CW. How did you know? Because I've been getting calls from board members begging me to convince you to take the deal. They're terrified. The hashtag is still trending. The petition has 200,000 signatures. Students are planning a walkout tomorrow. They're panicking. Good, let them panic. CW, another message. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we file the lawsuit, and Jaden, I'm proud of you. Your mother would be too. CW. Jaden stared at the message, vision blurring. His phone buzzed with new messages. Instagram requests from people he didn't know. One caught his attention. Marcus Johnson. I saw the press conference. I was the student whose grandmother died. Morrison denied my request. I dropped out. I'm working construction now. I always thought it was my fault. Thank you for showing me it wasn't. I'm with you. Marcus, another message. Maya Rodriguez. I was the Latina student Morrison said would probably fail out anyway because my English wasn't good enough. I transferred to community college. Took me 6 years, but I got my nursing degree. I'm at a free clinic in North Philly now. Count me in. Whatever you need. Maya, then another. And another. Students who'd been denied. Students who'd thought they were alone. By the time Jaden fell asleep, he had messages from 17 former students. 17 people ready to stand up and fight. The walkout started at 10 a.m. Jaden was downtown with Charlotte and Sullivan, but Destiny sent videos. Hundreds of students pouring out of buildings, gathering on the quad with signs. Compassion isn't a crime. Justice for Jaden. Fire Morrison. Faculty joined them. Professor Chen from pharmacology. Dr. Williams from clinical. Students taking turns at a microphone telling their stories. A black student denied accommodation when his father had a heart attack. An Asian student told her English wasn't good enough. A Latino student placed on probation for attending his sister's funeral. Story after story. By noon, the entire campus had shut down. Sullivan looked up from his laptop. CNN is calling this the biggest student protest since Vietnam. This is national news, Jaden. Charlotte pointed at her phone. #Justice for Jaden had been trending for 24 hours. But there was a new hashtag #how many more students from other universities coming forward. Harvard, Yale, Stanford, everywhere. One university was a scandal. Dozens was a movement. Sullivan's phone rang. He put it on speaker. "Say that again, Richard." President Carver's voice filled the office, exhausted and defeated. "We're prepared to meet all of Mr. Brooks's demands. Full reinstatement, independent investigation, policy reform with student representatives. We'll review every denied case from the past 5 years." "What about Dean Morrison?" Charlotte asked. Long pause. "Morrison has agreed to take indefinite leave pending investigation." "Not good enough," Jaden said, surprising himself. "He needs to be fired, now, publicly. Students need to see there are consequences." "Mr. Brooks, I understand you're angry, but—" "I'm not angry. I'm done negotiating." Jaden looked at Charlotte, who nodded. "You're going to fire Morrison. Issue a public apology acknowledging systematic discrimination. Establish an independent review board, majority students and faculty. Create a scholarship fund for students forced to drop out. And change the Presidential Scholarship to the Compassionate Action Scholarship, prioritizing students who demonstrate commitment to helping others, not just perfect GPAs." Silence. "You're asking me to fundamentally restructure our program, fire a 30-year dean, and admit to civil rights violations. Then we'll see you in court," Sullivan said coldly. "And when we're done with discovery, the board will wish they'd taken this deal." Another silence. "Give me 24 hours. You have 12 hours. It's 2 p.m. We want your answer by 2 a.m. Otherwise, we're filing at 9 a.m. tomorrow." Charlotte hung up. Sullivan started laughing. "Did we just dictate terms to a university president?" "We did." Charlotte smiled. "Well done, Jaden." Jaden's phone buzzed. Destiny. "Turn on the news. Now." The TV showed the campus. The quad packed with thousands. A young black woman at the microphone. "This is about every student who's been told they don't belong. Every student pushed out. We're done being quiet. We demand change. We demand accountability. We demand it now." The crowd roared. One sign caught Jaden's attention. "I got a second chance. They deserved one too." The movement was growing. Jaden's phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Jaden Brooks?" A woman's voice, warm and professional. "Yes, who's this?" "Dr. Sarah Mitchell. I'm the director of Philadelphia Free Clinic where your mother worked. I saw the press conference. I want to offer you a position in our clinical rotation program. We need students who understand healthcare is more than protocols. Your mother was one of the best people I ever worked with. I think you're exactly like her." Jaden couldn't speak. "Whatever happens with the university, you'll always have a place here. Your mother's legacy lives on in this clinic. Maybe yours will too." She hung up. Jaden looked at Charlotte at the TV still showing the protest. He thought about his mother, about all the ways his promise was coming true. "I need to call my grandmother," Grandma Loretta answered immediately. "Jaden, baby, I've been watching everything. Are you okay?" He told her everything. The settlement offer, turning it down, the lawsuit, the movement. When he finished, silence. Then Grandma Loretta spoke, voice thick with emotion. "Your mama would be so proud. Not because you're going to be a nurse, but because when someone needed help, you didn't walk away. You did right, Jaden." "I'm scared, Grandma. I'm scared I made the wrong choice. Your mama told me the night before she died, I just want Jaden to be good. I don't care if he's rich or successful. I just want him to be the kind of person who helps people." "Baby, you are. You're exactly who she hoped you'd be." They talked until Jaden's eyes were clear and his shoulders straight. When he returned to Charlotte's office, she checked her phone. "We have 10 hours until Carver's deadline. What do you want to do?" "I want to go to campus. Talk to the students. They're fighting for me. I should fight with them." Charlotte grinned. Sullivan called the car. "We're joining a protest." 20 minutes later, they pulled up to campus. The crowd had grown to 3,000, maybe more. Someone spotted Jaden. "That's him. That's Jaden." The crowd surged forward. Students reaching out, telling him they supported him. Someone handed him a megaphone. The crowd quieted. "I don't have a speech prepared," Jaden started. "I'm just a nursing student who stopped to help someone. But looking at all of you, I realized this was never about me. It's about every student who's been told they don't belong. We're not going to be quiet anymore. They offered me money to go away. But I'm not for sale. We're not for sale. So we're going to keep fighting until we win." The crowd erupted. At 2 a.m. exactly, Sullivan's phone rang. President Carver on speaker. We accept your terms, all of them. Morrison will be terminated immediately. We'll issue a public apology, independent review board, scholarship fund, everything. Just make this stop." "Make what stop?" Charlotte asked. "The protests, the media, the donors withdrawing funding, the Department of Education investigation. We're hemorrhaging money and reputation. We surrender." Sullivan and Charlotte nodded at Jaden. "We'll need it in writing by noon," Sullivan said. "You'll have it." Carver paused. "Mr. Brooks, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we failed you." "I'm not interested in apologies," Jaden said quietly. "Make sure this never happens to anyone else. Then we'll call it even." Carver hung up. Silence. Then Charlotte started laughing. Sullivan joined. Then Jaden. "We won," Destiny said, looking dazed. "We actually won." "We won," Jaden agreed. But looking at the news coverage at protests spreading globally, Jaden knew this was just the beginning. They'd won this battle. The war for justice was just starting, and Jaden was ready to fight it. 3 years later, the memorial dedication took place on a sunny November afternoon, exactly 3 years after Jaden had knelt on Market Street beside Charlotte Whitmore. The bronze wall gleamed on campus, visible from the main quad, featuring 37 names, every student who'd been pushed out by discriminatory policies. Below, in large letters, was the quote Jaden had chosen: "Compassion is not weakness. Justice delayed is justice denied." Jaden stood before the crowd in his new nursing scrubs credentials embroidered on the chest. Jaden Brooks, RN BSN. He'd passed his makeup exam with a 96%, graduated with a 3.8 GPA. Now he worked at Philadelphia Free Clinic, the same place his mother had worked, helping underserved populations, making sure nobody waited too long the way she had. Charlotte stood beside him, hair grayer, but determination unchanged. In 3 years, she'd forced policy reforms at 39 universities. 4 states had passed Good Samaritan Protection Acts for students. The federal Student Good Samaritan Act was moving through Congress with bipartisan support. The crowd was massive, representatives from 40 universities, civil rights organizations, student advocacy groups, and the faces that mattered most. Marcus Johnson back in school, graduating with his nursing degree next spring. Maya Rodriguez now at Jefferson Hospital pursuing her master's. Tyler Ashley and dozens of others given second chances they should never have needed. Dr. Chen, now Dean of Nursing after Morrison's termination, leading complete cultural transformation. Dr. Washington still on the oversight board after 43 years of fighting for equity. Destiny graduated and working alongside Jaden at the clinic. Mrs. Rodriguez with her rosary beads. Grandma Loretta, who'd traveled from Baltimore just for this. And in his mind, his mother, Sarah Brooks, whose death had started this journey. 3 years ago, I made a choice on Market Street. Jaden began, voice steady. I chose to stop when everyone else kept walking. I chose compassion over convenience. And for that choice, I was punished. He looked at the memorial behind him, but that punishment exposed systematic discrimination, led to reforms at dozens of universities, led to this memorial honoring students pushed out by a system that valued compliance over compassion, led to a movement still growing, still fighting. His voice strengthened. My mother taught me that helping people matters more than protecting yourself. She died because our healthcare system didn't see her as a priority. I couldn't save my mother, but because of all of you Charlotte's Courage students who shared their stories, faculty who refused silence, we've saved a system. We've made it possible for future students to help people without destroying their futures. He looked directly at the cameras. If you're facing discrimination, if you're being told policies matter more than people fight back, you're not alone. We've built a network of support. Use your voice. Tell your story. Demand accountability. Every battle you fight makes it easier for the next person. He unveiled the memorial wall, bronze names gleaming. The crowd erupted, students chanting, faculty crying, Charlotte embracing Dr. Washington, Marcus and Maya gathering around their names, taking photos, celebrating recognition they'd been denied. A reporter approached. Mr. Brooks, you've become a symbol of student advocacy. What's next? Jaden thought about the clinic, the fellowship program he helped run, the federal legislation he was helping pass. I'm going to keep being a nurse, keep helping people, keep fighting for systemic change. Make sure my mother's death and my struggles meant something. Make sure the next time someone sees a person who needs help, they don't have to calculate the cost of stopping. They can just help. He walked to the memorial wall, placed his hand on the bronze, traced his mother's name, added at his request, Sarah Brooks. She taught him that compassion matters most. "I kept my promise, Mama," he whispered. "I became a nurse. I'm helping people. And I'm making sure nobody has to choose between doing right and having a future." Charlotte touched his shoulder. "She'd be proud, not just for what you've accomplished, but who you've become." "We're changing it," Jaden corrected. "All of us together." He looked around at the movement they'd built, at proof that justice was possible when enough people refused to accept the status quo. 3 years ago, he'd been a broke nursing student with nothing but a promise and refusal to let someone die. Today, he was a registered nurse fellowship board member, symbol of student advocacy, and living proof that one person's courage could spark a revolution. The Compassionate Action Fellowship had awarded 147 scholarships across 38 states. Students who'd stopped to help accident victims, students who'd missed class to volunteer, students who'd chosen compassion and faced consequences. Now they had support. Now they had advocates. Now they had proof that doing right wouldn't destroy futures. People dispersed to the reception. But Jaden stayed by the wall, hand on his mother's name, feeling the weight of her legacy and his own intertwined. He'd stopped on Market Street because it was right. He'd fought the university because it was necessary. He'd refused to be bought because justice mattered more than money. Now, 3 years later, he could look at this wall and know his choices made a difference. Students across the country had better protections. Compassion was valued instead of punished. The system was better, not perfect. There was still work to do. There would always be work to do. But it was better. And that was enough. Destiny joined him at the wall. You know what the best part is? That federal law is about to pass. When it does, every university in America will have to protect students who help others. Your story, what happened to you on that sidewalk, is going to be federal law. That's legacy, Jaden. He smiled. Mama would like that. She always said one person could make a difference if they tried hard enough. She was right. Destiny squeezed his hand. And you proved it. Jaden looked at the memorial one last time, at his mother's name, at the 37 others, at the promise carved in bronze that this would never happen again. He thought about the scared 19-year-old who'd knelt on a sidewalk 3 years ago, not knowing that choice would change everything, who'd fought when fighting seemed impossible, who'd refused to compromise when compromise would have been easier. That scared kid had become this person, someone who'd changed policy at 40 universities, helped pass state laws, was about to help pass federal legislation. Someone who'd proven that doing the right thing, even when it cost everything, was always worth it. Charlotte appeared beside them. "Ready for the reception. There are some senators who want to meet you. They're fast-tracking the federal bill." "Yeah." Jaden took one last look at his mother's name. "I'm ready." As they walked away, he heard his phone buzz. A message from a student at UCLA. "I just stopped to help someone at a car accident, missed my exam, showed my professor your story and the policy reforms. He's letting me retake it. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for making it possible for people like me to help without losing everything." David Jaden smiled and showed it to Charlotte. "That's the 43rd message like that this month," she said. "Students across the country are invoking your case using the reforms you fought for. You're protecting people you'll never meet." "Good," Jaden said simply. "That's exactly what I wanted." They walked toward the reception, toward senators and advocacy groups and the continuing work of systemic change. Behind them, the memorial stood in afternoon sun, a permanent reminder that compassion mattered, that justice was possible, that one person's courage could change the world. Jaden Brooks, the young man who'd stopped on a sidewalk when everyone else kept walking, had kept walking himself, not past people who needed help, but toward justice, toward change, toward a future where doing right didn't cost everything. And he wasn't done yet, not even close. The promise he'd made to his mother at 8 years old had evolved into something bigger than either of them could have imagined. He wasn't just a nurse helping individual patients. He was a force for systemic change, protecting thousands of students he'd never meet, ensuring that compassion would be rewarded instead of punished. That was legacy. That was justice. That was keeping a promise. And it was only the beginning.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.